Have you ever thought about what takes place when you are not the center of the life of someone? Think about it for a second. That you go away from the life of someone, don't call or text. No communication at all. What do you think will happen? In the stillness you leave. This isn't just a made-up situation, it gives us a way to understand how much of an effect we have, look into each other's lives and the things they didn't expect. We can learn when we take a step back. I want you to dive deep with me today into the often forgotten but very powerfully changing ability to be absent from the point of view of Stoicism. We'll look into how disappearing can help you grow as a person, more stable partnerships, and a stronger sense of who they are. I want to tell all of you to think about everything as we move through these ideas. A lot of you have shared the way this channel has opened your eyes to new points of view and taught us important things into your everyday lives, and for that I'm very thankful. If you're new, welcome, or if you've been with us before but haven't signed up yet, it's time now to become part of our group. Click on the subscribe button. Like this movie, don't be afraid to tell your friends about it who are deeply moved about growing as a person and looking into philosophy. Some doubters might, some ideas hard to believe. But I ask everyone to see through to the end. The ideas we talked about today are important for anyone who wants to learn more about understanding of who they are and the Stoic way of thinking, things that can make our lives better. Don't miss it. Let's start. And remember, the trip of self-discovery isn't just about responding but also about to asking the right ones. Turning down, it is the first sting you feel when someone stops trying to get in touch, no longer responding, and it makes you wonder, what just took place? Now picture this happening in your own life. You've been talking to every day with someone, and all of a sudden there is silence. It's not about them not answering any messages, it's about them going away from everything in your daily life. How it did? It makes me feel like a jerk. A blow to your pride, this feeling of being turned down. They can be very scary. It makes the base shake of what you thought was a link between them. What did you say? Did you get the signs wrong? It makes sense to spin. Look into these questions. But this is where Stoic thought comes in. Brings us some comfort. Stoics would tell us to take a look at rejection, not as an attack on you, but in real-life things in life we can't change. That's all they teach us. We are really in charge. Is what we do and how we react when you're turned down. Stoicism is more than just a cold way to feel better. It's an effective way to handle with all the mental turmoil. Julius Caesar, a ruler of Rome, and a Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "Your mind is under your control, not events outside of understand this, and you will get strong." So when someone goes missing, there is a chance, a tough one, for sure, to follow this idea. It has to do with recognizing how hurt we are without letting them take over or tell us what to do. Besides that, Stoicism makes us stronger. To separate from our need for approval from the outside when someone goes away, it's simple to feel not good enough or liked. Remember, how much you're worth isn't decided by the attention of someone else or loss of it. By becoming detached like a Stoic, you can start to see rejection as it, because it leads to freedom. It takes away your need to make others happy and hold your self-worth, not to what they did, but to the good things you do and how you act. So even though it hurts to be turned down and hurt, what Stoicism teaches us, also see it as a chance to grow, to make our mental strength stronger, and to make things line up better with who we really are. It makes us think about, how can I make use of this? To get stronger, to be more independent and depend on less, based on what other people say. It has to do with turning a potentially event that paralyzes, turned into a step for growth personally. An interest want to know more is that little voice that starts to ask, why did they leave? What did I forget? Where are they now that I'm not there? It is a normal human reaction to look for answers, to fill in the holes when we don't know what to do, and when someone just ends up from our lives, and that uncertainty can feel like too much. Just curious isn't only about being nosy or looking into someone else's life. This is a more in-depth and personal process That means thinking about how things work, what the friendship is. You feel pushed to look at past conversations and think about what might happen. This can be both good and bad and damaging. On the one hand, it makes you want to learn more and understanding what are the important parts of the Stoic view. But if nothing is done, it could take you down a rabbit hole of thinking too much and guessing. Stoicism gives you a different view, how to deal with interest. Sophists like Epictetus and Seneca stress concentrating on the things we can change, how we felt about loss, how we feel about things, and the things we decide to do are under our control, no matter how understanding or controlling what the other person's for quitting is not. What Stoicism teaches us to agree with this limit and to change our interest in order to improve oneself in personal thought. Besides, Stoicism gives us strength to make interest work for you to learn about oneself, instead of as a way to think about what could have been. It has to do with asking ourselves, what does this interest show about what I want and need? What do I need to learn from this? About what I believe in, and how I speak to other people? In this way, interest no longer just about the other person, but about getting it ourselves better. We should also think about the part that interest plays in building resilience by looking into how we feel and ideas that the person went missing. We are working out how to be calm by reflecting. This process of thinking is not passive, it's an active choice, and a reasonable examination the states of our own minds. It makes us want to get better. Because of the situation, to make your skin thicker and to get ready, it's better for the unknown future. Self-reflection when someone goes away. It looks like a mirror, all of a sudden held up our lives, making us look at ourselves. We might not have done before. These thoughts does not just mean to wonder what went wrong or why someone left. It's about looking at the things we do, thoughts, and maybe what part we played in how things worked that caused them to leave. Thoughts on oneself because of such an event makes us want to dig deeper into a better comprehension of our wants, having hopes and feelings. It makes us think what kind of ties we have. Were we relying too much? Did we maybe ignore your body's signals of pain or that the other person isn't interested? With its focus on Stoicism, on self-reflection and power control over what they do and how they react, gives us a good framework here. The idea shows us to put every skill to use, in particular difficult ones, as chances to get better and getting better. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoics talked a lot about how important of looking inside and looking at our own reasons for doing what we do. He wrote about how to look at ourselves, just as honestly and seriously as we might look at someone else without bias or lying to yourself. This level of deep self-reflection is not about blaming yourself, that is, about knowing yourself and good things. It helps us figure out not just what we do well, but also our weak spots and trouble spots, where we can make ourselves stronger and adaptable as well. Self-reflection helps us change things, our own personal limits, aims, and hopes. We learn how to accept things from it, accepting other people as they are, and accepting it of the things we can't change, not our own acts, but others. Realizing this can set you free. Even if it was hard, it changes the subject, from attempting to alter other people or events that make us work on ourselves, which is the only real place we can control. From a Stoic's point of view, every outside event lets us have a chance to show traits like patience, being brave and temperate when someone goes missing from our lives. This is a great chance to live by these ideals, by thinking about how we feel about things. How do we deal with loss? In what ways do we deal with change? These questions and find out the answers can help us grow as individuals in important ways. Finally, thoughts on oneself. Because of these things, lets us come out stronger and more in place. It helps us depend on others less, on outside validation, and more on how our moral compass works inside as we make our way through what we think and feel that the person went missing. We make the base stronger. To rely on yourself, faith, and trust in how well we can handle everything that life throws at us. Independence. Being independent isn't just about being by yourself. It has to do with the skill to be by yourself. Make your own choice. and keep your mental strength no matter what other people do or are there when you normally talk to someone, suddenly goes away. Things happen to you out of the blue, where you need to depend on yourself. At first, this might seem scary, or even isolating them, but it's also a chance to get stronger. Your personal freedom. Stoicism put a lot of value on being self-sufficient, not in the sense of cutting yourself off from other people, but in building up inner strength that stays the same no matter what the outside events are. Philosophy tells us that real freedom comes from being in need of as few outside things as much as possible. When someone goes missing, it makes you to face your needs. Were you depending too much based on their company or approval? Did their company make you happy, or self-worth? Those are some tough questions, but important for growing a tough way of looking at life. As you move through this, having more freedom, you'll likely find out things about yourself and what you can do that were before relationship took the spotlight away from. Now is the time to look into your hobbies. Hobbies or even just making friends that were maybe forgotten. It's about getting things done. Not when someone else is around, but with things to do and interests, things that help to your own happiness and growth. Besides, being independent teaches you about how strong you are. Stoicism does more than just help people stay strong. In the face of trouble, it helps you see every problem as a chance to show good character. The sudden lack of someone can be used as a useful exercise in strength, and patience and temperance are important Stoic traits. Every single day that you don't depend on that person, you are following the rules of Stoicism, getting better at being good and reminding you of your ability to live a good life your way. Independence changes shape too, what you think about relationships from now on with a tough attitude. You understand that even though relationships can make life so much better, your health shouldn't depend on them. With this understanding can help relationships get better that are based on respecting each other and ideals they share in place of dependence or neediness. It changes things. From one of having to pick one where people keep their relationships not for fear of being alone, but because they really make things better. Finally, accepting independence with a somber eye helps lessen the fear of losing more. It gives you information. That doesn't matter who joins or leaves your life. You can do it. Having to keep your balance and going forward on your way, you will still feel pain though, or miss the ones who go, but rather that these feelings won't throw off your general balance and joy. Stress and worry. We're going to talk about worry, which often comes up in case someone unexpectedly ends our life. Worry in this situation is that feeling of unease, a type of mental turmoil that comes up, not just because the person isn't there, but because it brings doubt. You could start to think about everything because of the stability, the other people, to how much you value yourself. This stress can be too much to handle, but it's also an important place for growth as a person and how to use Stoic ideas. Worry when someone goes missing usually comes from our innate need to be in charge and guess about our surroundings. We like to feel safe, to know what to expect based on our connections and conversations every day. When someone goes away without giving a reason, it changes this feeling of being able to plan ahead, making us feel vulnerable, upset, and tense. Stoicism is a strong contrast in this case. It helps us learn that even though we can't outside events like what other people do, we can choose how to respond to them. Stoic thought tells us to be brave, to look at our nervous feelings with logic and careful thinking. Why are we scared? What exact thoughts are making this worry worse? A lot of the time, our fears come true, are based on ideas or plans or hopes about how things should be. Epictetus and other Stoics would help us remember that these shoulds are out of our hands, and following them only sets us up for sadness and failure instead. We are told to pay attention about what we can do now because of the situation. That often means moving our point of view from what we've lost to what we still have or can do. Also, Stoicism supports for learning, being mindful, being there at this very moment without being sad about the past or worrying about the future. This can be very helpful in dealing with fear after someone goes missing. By paying attention to the present, you take part with the work and environment around you which can make you feel less anxious in order to reduce the weight of unknown events in the future. Still, another Stoic move is to look at every case of worry given as a chance to show virtue among other things. The trait of courage is not just being brave in the physical sense, but also about facing our inner fights with resolve, peace, and calm. When we're stressed about someone going missing, it's a chance to get stronger. By going head-on with our fears, instead of letting them, the power to control our feelings. We also get better at training the Stoic practice of planning ahead, thinking about possible problems, and getting ready in your mind for them. This can help calm you down to lessen the shock or the effects of unplanned events. If we keep telling ourselves things can change in relationships and people could leave, we are better ready. How you feel when it does happen. This doesn't mean we always expect to lose something, but rather that we recognize it as a way of life and lessen its strength to make people anxious. Many thanks. Let's talk about thanks now. Something that might not be what you think about first when someone goes missing, but it's a deep one. That often comes up after the fact when a significant other disappears from the people you live with. At first, it might feel like a loss, but there was an emptiness as the first shock wears off. You can start to fill this spot, being grateful for what they have because of the relationship and the times you spent together. This move towards taking pleasure. Stoic thought has a lot to do with which stresses. What it means to be thankful and thinking about the good things, even in conditions that seem bad. There's a method in Stoicism called the thought on passing away, influenced by the ideas of Marcus Aurelius, thoughts on how short life is, family and friends. He tells us to enjoy every moment, not being sure if it will last when someone goes missing. This approach starts to make sense instead of just theoretical. You start to value it, not just the good times you spent together, also the growth of the person, and understanding that came from being together. This kind of thought encourages a deep sense of thanks, which can change the hurt of loss turned into a party of events to share. Besides, the absence of someone often brings out how they changed your life. You begin to understand and like things about them. You might not have thought much about it. Maybe their help was always there, that you only fully understand now in its place. Or maybe you find yourself losing their unique point of view about everyday things. Thanks for this goes beyond the person to the lessons they taught, whether they were meant to be or not, or just a leftover of your activities. With Stoic thought, also makes us feel good to use the leave thee of someone as a spark. Thanks for valuing people who stay in our lives. Seneca was a Stoic thinker. A lot of writing on how important it is to cherish our family and friends while we still have them, not just after the fact. This greater appreciation can lead to more important interactions with the people around us, as we are aware of how fragile things are and how important these links are. Additionally, thank you in the stern sense not only about people, it's also about them as people, strengths and skills. You might have grown because of to their leaving. Maybe you've learned to be strong. You didn't know you had, or you've learned something new, or sports in the room they left behind. This kind of self-love is very important, as it changes the subject from what you've lost to what you've gained. Changing a blank spot, a good place to grow crops for growth personally and finding yourself. Thoughts on values. These thoughts isn't just about reevaluating what we look for in a partner, but also about getting at our deeper moral and personal values. These kinds of situations force us to face most likely the most profound questions about our lives. What's important to us? How well do our ideals match up with the things we do and choose every day? This trip of reflection has its roots in the Stoic thought in favor of living a life in line with one's morals. Stoicism says that being good is taking things into account. Virtue and moral greatness is the best thing when someone leaves our lives on purpose, or otherwise it makes a unique stop. A quiet moment that makes us think about how our ties are, and the way we act truly show what we believe in. As an example, if being honest and loyal are things that you value, thoughts on a past relationship could show whether those beliefs were really being praised or if there was any sign of compromise. Besides that, this thought often leads to a more thorough review of how we divide up. We spend time and energy. Seneca and other Stoics draw attention to the fact that time is limited. telling us how to spend it properly on things that make us happy and improve our lives instead of those that drain us or lead us astray. The lack of someone might help us understand how much time we spent taking care of their wants or needs, at the cost of our own, leading to a recalibration geared towards relationships and hobbies that care for people more, and in line with what we stand for in addition.